we can even understand that wine has to follow certain needs. Wine has to be enjoyable. We have to talk about persons. We have to talk about emotions. And the philosophy at all should be understanding of the environment. So if we see it, wine as an entity.
Hello, Sieghard. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm hoping you have even a great time.
I'm great, thank you. It's so lovely to talk to you.
For me too.
You are in Switzerland.
Currently, I am in Venezia, so Venice, because I have some appointment here around. But normally I live in Switzerland, and I'm working for a Swiss holding, even in Austria. So I'm doing some work over there.
Oh, I see. Okay. But now tell me, you're a winemaker. You qualified as a winemaker.
Mm-hmm.
Where exactly did this love for winemaking start, or the interest?
Yeah, of course, we can tell about some heritage, some family heritage, and then it's not a boundary, but even a wish of myself to get into this. So the heritage is over 350 years of winemaking in Südtirol, so in northern Italy. Actually, northern Italy was former Austrian. And then my family didn't want really that I get into the step, because just one member of the family should do something different. Oh, okay. But my love for winemaking was too big, so I decided to do it against every opposition.
Oh, okay. So you grew up in this environment, this winemaking environment.
Of course, and I think once you get the sickness of having fun in vintage, and you survive it, you can sustain all the pain, the free time you have to spend in the digging in the arguments, you have to learn better, and you never finish to do that. Then you commit yourself to do what you like and what your path could be. So winemaking for that reason.
But now, for you, you grew up in winemaking or in this environment. How important was it still to go and study it?
It is important because talented people, I guess I have some talent, even in getting into new cultures, and new scenes and new technologies. So a person needs some traits to get trained. And only talent means that you close your mind to what you expect and what you find more comfortable. Studying means to go or to affront some discussions, some arguments you don't know, you barely understand. You get into, you're trying to find your way. And sometimes, I guess studying, as I did, so I didn't the wine Schule, so a wine school. I did it in an academic way. So I'm interested in having troubles and get a way how to handle with it. So a scientific way, so a rational way, which permits me, once it's cleared, to get on again on your heart feeling, on your taste, on your irrational side. So combining the both. But you need to study to be fully committed to how nature works. And then you can decide to follow the science who says, we cleared it out. So the left side we took out, the right side we took out. That should read the way what we recommend. And you have to know it. And sometimes, so just to not lose faith in winemaking, we go beyond the borders. So we're trying even things out, and that's even the movement in the last years, which I appreciate, of the natural wines, of wine without sulfur, of new technologies, or the new technologies are even result of traditions, which people say, oh, it's old stuff, you maybe don't need it. And then you experiment it and say, okay, let's combine it differently. And so we have a new way to understand taste and getting out what we all want, emotions. It's a very emotional product, if you can say product. So it's something that people connect and permit themselves to go in contact with other ones, to speak about their own taste. So even the tastings is very interesting because people declare so much from themselves without knowing. And
really,
this is some taste, yeah, because at the end, when you talk about taste, you talk about yourself. Mm-hmm. And when you get a tasting, a shared tasting, and they say, I like it. So you have another stone in your mosaic frame to identify the person. Every one of us is different, but there are patterns of taste. And once you get in touch with these persons, then you understand them better. You understand how to talk, how they are dressed, how they dress, because it's all a matter of taste. And so you can understand them, or you're trying to get them in a way that you can say, okay, and now we're going deeper to what you may like. And of course, they are customers, they are persons, they have feelings and emotions. And doing it industrially, so wine is even industry, you're trying to get this 8 or 9 persons out of 10 who may like it. But that doesn't mean that you're not interested in the 1 or 2 persons who maybe are not interested in that kind of wine. Because sometimes in the way people get to wine is a beginning. Or they have their own taste, but they're not conscious. They need a lead, they need some advice. And the more they grow, the more they have own personal experience. And so they go towards their own emancipation of taste. And then you can understand them and deliver what they may need. So they are even keen to discover new things. So they say, okay, I know that, that's good. I drank that for the last 5 years or 10 years. That's fantastic. And then they get into and said, oh, let's try something different. Oh, I attend a dinner with somebody who want to impress, or I had something. So they begin to be emancipated in their own taste, and they share it. And that's the way they say something about themselves, in which stadium of their emancipation of taste they are going, and how they are ready for getting wines who are not totally understandable at the first sight. So, there could be love at first sight, even in wine. But yeah. I think once that is over, so you get more in this feeling, in this irrational side, then you trying to understand this. That's why people are attending even the sommelier course or wine academy or whatever. And then they begin to be connoisseurs. So they're very understanding what they are drinking. They're open even for something else. There's a willingness to spend some money on it. So they may not drink expensive wine all the days, but they can then recognize and say, I had some which are good. I recognize the taste because then they feel, okay, the normal wine you uncork or unscrew, it's immediately disponible. So you can taste it, it's fine. So with no further explanation. But when you have something different, you see the crescendo. So you open it, you're a little sad. So it's not that thing I wanted. So in the time you're consuming the wine, you see the crescendo, you feel it. Oh, it's opening now, which is a new discovery. So, wine is not falling down and I have to consume it. But even the day after, and sometimes it happens that there are leftovers in the bottle, or you leave them for a purpose, and then you taste them and say, okay, that's the mechanism of getting oxygen in, combining it, getting the secondary aromas pulling out to having the balance in the bottle and so on. So all the explanation you want to say, but then they discover, okay, I like it. That's a good one, because it shows me something. It has some feeling, has potential. It can stand something.
This is so interesting, because while you were talking, I was thinking, if I just think the first wine that I drank, you know, compared to now, I mean, I wouldn't prefer to drink that wine now, you know, and how my taste has also developed, but also because my dad is very much interested in wine, and he's been, you know, he's also for many years been at the wine guild, and he's been exposed to many different types of wine. And it's so interesting to hear his opinion also about wines, or sometimes when he would say, try and taste this, or try and see if you can find this in the taste. And it's like you say, it's a evolvement almost, you know, like a growth in wine drinking.
It is so. Because all of us, maybe I want not to be too philosophical, but in my experience, philosophy helps even to understand the daily work. And if we don't use it, so we are just doing things by routine without being conscious of what we are doing, or having a perspective, or asking something. So I'm a winemaker who, of course, have technical education, so we can talk hours about the microgram, the addition, how the toasting will affect the wine. But I'm more holistic. So getting into details even reveals that colleagues maybe are not so eloquent, maybe not so tight in their own arguments, and they flee, they trying to overwhelm you with their knowledge, and so you get more technical aspects. But talking about philosophy, we can even understand that wine has to follow certain needs. Wine has to be enjoyable. We have to talk about persons. We have to talk about emotions, and the philosophy at all should be understanding of the environment. So if we see it, wine as an entity where we have every drop that we get out of the bottle, backing box, or whatever, we get out thinking of persons, a special place, a grape variety that grows there, something unpredictable, for example, hail or frost or whatever, that occurs in that moment when it was produced, and every decision is made by man. So having this cultural product where men share, or women, or mankind shares their thinking, their doing, then you have the access to wine in a holistic way. Maybe you're not conscious, you don't know it, but the more you get deeper in, you're feeling that, and that's even the reason why people is looking for winemakers as entity, because they can touch them, they can identify them, they can relate to them. Okay, this winemaker makes natural wine, I like, so he does it in that way, I like. So at the end, they talk about themselves, projecting it to the maker who does the wine. That's my experience.
Yeah.
And so it's, as I said, revelation of the customer themselves, how they are speaking with you about you, but they're speaking about themselves, which is very interesting when you're on the other part and you're very calm, stoic, and trying to understand them. And then you can deliver something. They say, oh, exactly, I wanted that. How, how is possible? Or you can even say, sorry, I don't produce that for many reasons. Maybe I have some limitations and so on, but I can recommend you someone else. which is a colleague of mine, because the wine world is a very tiny place. And so we can even get in touch with other people. It's people, it's taste.
But this is also now just proving how much art, wine is a form of art, you know, because like you say, it's the human touch of it, and the artistic side of the creative side, and which is then the artistic side of the human being who is making the wine.
I guess even in your profession, I guess it's photography and broader art. I really don't know it, but I can feel it. In your arts, you have even colleagues who are very technical, but you need technique to getting your art done. So you have to know which light you need, which camera, which angle, how to develop the time frame to getting into it. That's important. And then you combine it by yourself, and you are the sum of the experience and the hesitations and projects you have, that in that very moment is getting the shot, or it's getting the painting done. And in everything we do, we have a limited time on earth, to be a dark British humor, but as we have a limited time frame on earth, time is a very important thing. Time is important when we share things. For example, we sit together and drink some wine, and the wine itself has an effect on time. So after the release, you need some time to get the wine done in a certain way. You taste the wine, for example, a very famous wine. I don't make any name, but if you have a very famous, expensive wine, you drink it after 5 years after release. You may remember the person you are sitting to, you have some emotions, you have some remembering. Then after some time, you have the same wine from the same vintage with other people, and your impression is different, because indeed it's different, because in this very time, you are different. The place is different, the person is different, and even the wine has his own time frame, who has followed that. So time is a matter. It's a fourth dimension in everything. We have 3 of them. So think about the environment, the grape variety, and the humankind, which is influencing everything, then even the time. And unfortunately, we are conscious, so we winemaker and the wine industry, we are conscious about time, but we haven't understood that time can be financed. That was even a part of my MBA thesis. So time can be financed to have a value added time frame you can control and release in a very certain time when the wine are ready. We don't, because we have tanks. We have to fulfill them, we have to empty them, we have to follow a schedule, we have to be paid, and so on and so on. So it's the daily work which gets on us on the ground. But the time is definitely something that elevates the product, that makes you discuss about, that makes scarcity and rarity and emotions. And that could be applied on the 10 up to 20% of the whole production, everyone with us. Because then you can even show competence. So if I show you a wine of 2009, for example, and we drink it now, you can guess, okay, if that's a wine that's 13 years old or 12 years old, I trust these guys. They're doing a beautiful job, or I feel there is some texture. They can age, so it's not certain products, so they have competence. So that's even a marketing instrument, and not everybody is conscious about it. But time is definitely important for us all, and even the wine itself.
Well, I spoke to a winemaker who told me also that years ago, the wine was consumed also differently. It was also made, and it was not like now where it's so, making it for the market, just quickly and getting it out there, and people drink it very quickly after they bought it. And do you think this is also something that needs to be people need to be more educated in the sense that they understand what is the process and that they understand also this art form, that it's not just about the drinking of it.
We shouldn't consider that linear. So
Yeah.
you have the basic product and then you go to the top product. It's present in the very same time, so contemporary, because you have people, as I said, who is not ready on the path of taste, so they are not emancipated yet, but they even don't know if they want it. So they're on the ground scale and say, I just want to drink or wine. They said wine should be fine. So they need the products and they are a majority. So it's good that we produce some serious wines or normal basic wines for this audience because they need it, they enjoy it. And at the end, we talk about wine. So it's arguments they're getting more in the head. But then you have even other person who are ready for that. So they could acquire some basic wine. They decide by themselves to do it or not. And then they want to be educated more. So as a wine is very complicated because it's not industrial beverage. You can say, yeah, it's made by, and so on. So we have different territories, you have different grape varieties, you have some protected names, you have winters, you have, it's beginning very, it begins very to attach people once they get in. And so they need to be educated because it's their own need. So they understand themselves at the end, as I said before, but they want to know something about something because they feel they're attracted. They want the knowledge to know themselves better because then they discover their own taste. They don't know it, but they do.
Yeah.
So education is very important to help people to get on their own way and to help even the industry and the winemakers to do their job, because we have to do standard products, which is fair. It's good.
Yeah.
We have to. But the goal of every winemaker is doing some art.
Yeah.
So you don't do every day your schedule. You can do, but then you're not a winemaker. You are a good professionalist. You do your duties. That's lovely. But when you're really a winemaker who wants to be called winemaker, you need that irrational way where you can say, let's try it out, let's get the time done, let's put attention to it, to have some details that I like. And then you go out and then you show what you're doing. And you know, I'm doing it right now, and in 4 years, then we can talk about. Maybe you're not in the winery anymore, but maybe you're not on with our own steps on the ground, but you leave something that people can enjoy and you show what is possible to do. And furthermore, that's even a question that sometimes rises, that bad vintages, which I don't know who has to say if it's bad or not, the so-said bad vintages are a challenge of everyone of our guild. So they're trying to get the best out of this vintage. And doing it, you put a lot of effort in the top products because the normal you have to apply some science and some technology to get it done. But if you try, even Austria, the 2014 year, but even in France, the 2016, so there have been some frost and hails and whatever, and rain during the harvest time. And normally people say before they finished fermenting the wine, it's a bad year. Why? Because the conditions have been bad. But that triggers normally the art of the winemakers. And if you try right now some wines from Vaja 2014, or some 2016 from Burgundy or even somewhere else, they're fantastic wines.
Really?
Because they're developing differently. They are not the normal thing you expect. And if someone is very detail-oriented and he has sensibility in doing his winemaking, you can guess that he does the perfect selection of the remaining grapes. He does put attention in fermentation. he does allow a certain aging, and then you try them out and say, oh wow, I didn't expect that, and that's a good feeling. Then you see that wine is not one dimension, it has different layers, even within a winery. You say, oh, that's the exception. That's even the reason why Bordeaux, they have different prices for different vintages, because they don't say it in that year, they say after they produced it and bottled it. So now that is the good point. You have the pre-release, you have the en primeur, where you guess what it could be, but it's just, so. But afterwards, when you get the prizes and the accolades, then that's the right way to do it. Then you can say that is a vintage we can recommend, and it's very worth to have drunken once a lifetime, for example.
That is so interesting. And now you're talking about the fermentation process also. So that's actually nature that, or how much do you intervene in this process?
We have to intervene, but we have not to intervene. So I want to explain that better. So it is a process. We know there are some points the science didn't deliver all the answers yet, but if we control it, we have output we know. Because since Louis Pasteur in the last century described the fermentation through the yeast, we know barely how to do it. We have selected yeasts, we have control of the temperature, so all parameters to permit fermentation in the direction we know we want. So that's security.
Yeah.
But all things that are very secure in life are not so exciting.
Yeah.
So you lose even some opportunities if you do security. And the taste is one of them. So it tastes, but it doesn't get some value or added value. So not doing things, and that is even the wild fermentation or the controlled wild fermentation, means that you lead the wine to a direction which expresses once more where the wine come from. So it's a winery, it is your vineyard. You can even get some grapes smashed out in the vineyard in a little tinny stainless steel vessel and close them, so you have the yeast of the vineyard doing that, or in the winery, which are completely fulfilled with yeast in the air, so whatever. But that could be differently, because applying bioscience and biotechnology, if I get the most out of the grapes, in that moment, I squeeze it under the surface of the grapes. There are even some winemakers who wash the surface of the grapes to annihilate that opportunity. But once the must get in contact with the yeast on the surface, there begins fermentation. So we add some sulfur, we get down the temperature, so we can check it, and then we give yeast on it, so it starts. It has the dominance. If you don't do that, so we get the parameters of temperature, maybe no sulfur, so we know what you're doing, but you need knowledge for that purpose, so you have to study.
Yeah.
Then you can lead it, then you know it. And you even can guess that organic grapes are totally different from standard grapes, because the application of fungicides and other pest controlling mechanism is not applied on or less applied on organic grapes. So you have a much more variety of wild yeasts, and the fermentation goes even differently, because you have no impediments. You have no chemical products that can delay fermentations. So it's different. But as you know, it can go very quickly. You need the parameters to done the temperature. You have to check it, to do some analysis, and then it goes to a very direction you see. You can lead a little bit,
Yeah.
and the outcome is the very moment of the variety and of the vintage and everything.
Now,
Deep wine is not allowed to cross the vintages in sparkling wine production, which is wine, but I would say it's not wine production anymore. So it's a sophisticated way to produce wine, so sparkling wine. There you're allowed to add some reserves, so all the vintages that you like, and then you can really have your own taste on it, and that's the taste of the maison, of the champagne house, of the sparkling producer, who you get attached. You even don't ask about vintage, maybe just a millésime sometimes, but if you buy that, you buy the expertise, you buy the taste, you buy the emotion, which we can't do in wine, so it's not permitted, but some colleagues are trying that, so they don't get the permission to have a quality wine. Boom, is lowered to table wine, which maybe even costs 100 quids or more, but then it's different. Of course, you have a different taste.
But now also you're talking about the organic farming. How much do you think farmers now or winemakers now will, with all the latest scientific knowledge that we have now with bioenzymes and things, that it's important to start looking at that way of farming?
Oh, they're looking, they're knowing it. But as I said, we decided, and the decision to apply some helps, some technical solutions or not, are influencing the output.
Okay.
So a protocol of vinification looks on that. So you choose on the vintage, on the variety, on the territory you have to work with, which kind of vinification you apply. And so you can have a neighbor vineyard to other one, which should taste very similar because you have a common base. But indeed, through these decisions, you can do some completely different products. And if you do even experiments, and I did once, you have the same grapes, the same picking day, everything was the same except the winemakers. So we split it in 5 lots. Every winemaker did what he liked or he was supposed to do. And so you have indeed 5 different products, which are similar, but truly different. You can taste the difference.
Yeah.
That's the influence of persons. That's the influence of mankind. So that's the important thing I even said some minutes before.
Now, also interesting. I spoke to it's a project. It's the Old Vine project in South Africa. How old are the vines usually, or is it also the tendency to take the old vines out and plant new vines?
That's a good question, because it has a huge impact on the wine. So let's speak about older wines. So older wines have successfully settled somewhere. Old wines have been suffering some climate change or climate influence of the microclimate or even the greater climate. So they stand there. They even had some infections. They even had asri. So they stand there. Yeah. And their contribution to the wine is maturity. It's like wisdom as human we can attribute. So took out all the women and men who are in the age of retirement, you will lose some knowledge, some patience, some heritage. So all the wines indeed deliver totally different products. And the strategy of very good winemakers and very good wineries is not to pulling them out totally, but to delay as long they can. And naturally, a wine can stand even 100 years. but then we had phylloxera, so we have to graft it, so it's 50 years, 60 years. So it depends on the location you are. In Chile, for example, you have the Huel wines, so they stand even more than 100 years. Even the same thing in Australia. In some parts, you have sandy soil, so there is no phylloxera, so this disease, and they can stand longer. And in the vineyards, we have all the wines. The conscious wineries and winemakers are not pulling them out, but replacing just that fallacy. So when you have one that dies, you get a new one. So in these vineyards, you're not speaking about old vineyard. You say the average age of the wines is 50 years, because you have some of 5, 10, 15, 60, 80. So you have a community which lives there, which influence each other, but they grow within this community. And if you are even smart enough, you have not only one clone, which is technically correct. So after phylloxera, Europe has lost over 1 million hectares of wine, so they have to replace them. So they did what we hadn't had in the thousands years before. So we get one variety inside of one clone, which is fine. It's perfect. It's rational. It's easy to do surveillance. But if you have the pre-phylloxera vineyards, you have different varieties of grapes in, because you have that delays the ripening. One is more acidic, the other one has more taste. So you combine as a winemaker in that way that you correspond to your own wine. But if you have the same variety, you need not the same clone, but in a older vineyard, you have to take out from the dying or the other one, and you graft and getting it in. So there are no clones, there are different subjects living together there. And that is then the very definition of old vineyard, when you have this kind of doing, which is more ancestral, more historic than the modern doing. And you can even spot it, because of course it has to be different. It's not controllable in that way. And so per definition, it's different.
That is so interesting. So that will bring also in years a different taste in the wine. Yeah. Because as they mature, the younger ones then mature.
You have a common line that accommodates that, because you have this community, let's say it so. And the very interesting thing about it, you have it in Europe, but you have it much more in the New World. So in South Africa, in Chile, you have it in California, you have it in Australia, because they started later with the diffusion and the colonialism, but they maintained it while we pushed it out, because we are very modern in Europe. So we have a quick turnover. We have even a business about that. And in this countries I mentioned before, it was a niche. So they had no pressure to do it. Now they do, but it was a niche. So they have even old stock. That's even the reason why the Malbec wine, who disappeared from Bordeaux, was found in Argentina and Chile, and then they get back here to Bordeaux again because of the phylloxera. They lost their own genetics, and then had to get them back from somewhere else. Even you have very old wine in Australia, we haven't in Europe, because they have perfect conditions. We haven't here.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't realize.
There's an old heritage in the New World, which is paradoxon, but it's interesting.
Yeah. And you always think it's the other way around, because you think in Europe it would have been older then. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
But now, tell me, what is your wish now for the future as a winemaker?
Oh, there is a daily wish and some, how say it? It's like an artist who's never completely fine with his work. Mm-hmm. So we can lean back and say, oh, I did a great job, I'm fine. I get some accolades, I did reach that, I get some money, some wealthy, and fine, and my family, the dog, and everything. So this kind of understanding. But a winemaker, I think, always wants to get something he doesn't know, a situation he has to manage, something new, a new technology, a new person you get in touch. And if you're very successful in your career, so talking about myself, I don't know the colleagues.
Yeah.
I want to share my knowledge with someone who is approaching the industry. So be a mentor, to give somebody to a talented person who gets the next step. Could be my own children, could be even a very talented person I meet as an internship or so on. And then I want to share, I want to keep him and give him that. So that's the wish to contribute to the industry and the person who approaching it, to share your own knowledge and get them settled in what they love to do. Because you see when people is sharing your own pain, sharing your thoughts, sharing your sleepless nights. And when you have them, of course, I sustain them. So without asking, so I get into them. So let's do that. That's your project. Mind that. Call me when you need a reference, of course. So
Yeah.
that's a thing I do. And the very deep wish is to continue to be always straight on, not to think about, have to think about economics. Of course, I'm even managing director of my department, but I don't want to do things which are short and term to lose my long-term vision. That's very important. Otherwise, I can't do my job with love or with hate.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes brings some conflicts, of course, but we winemakers are normally introverted persons. I'm not so, but we then block. So we say, no, we are tradition, we have a vision, we have a site. I don't do that. Or I'm not keen to do that. On the basic wines, no problem. There are basic rules, we can play them. But when we go to the very passion, so to do the wines we like to do, or the expression of our own expertise and knowledge, they have no compromise. So that has to be done in that way. Otherwise, I don't produce them.
Yeah. But I think when there's something like that, where it's such a passion, then it will have a success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But success is always a definition that other ones gives to you. You should have your own definition of success.
Yeah.
Which maybe it's not a prize or accolade or money. So it's a project you do, and you say that I was able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is what I mean. That
if they align, it's fine, but yeah.
Yeah, that it's not about the money or the financial
stuff,
but it's about what you've achieved. What you set out to achieve and what you have achieved.
To survive the daily craziness, you need your playgrounds, which is your chamber. You open, you go there, you have your play to do, then you close it again to be protected about other influences. So if a winery permits that to the winemaker, you have a very good relationship. You have even sometimes product you didn't expect, but the normal work is done. So you do that. It's your daily business, your daily craziness. It's what you're supposed to do. They need your playgrounds or your freedom, your own project. And when you do that, then of course you have a balance. Then it's fine.
Yeah, I love that you call it a playground. I think this is a good word. Yeah.
You need tools. You need some playing cards or something else. You get them in, you get them out. So important is the ground where you can play and the tools you choose.
Yeah, and I think that playground that we have,
it's mental.
that is all. But that's always the thing that where you learn the most. About what you do.
Indeed, it is so.
Yeah. But Sieghard, there's this. Oh, I have to ask you first. You have to do a shout out for where do you drink coffee? Where do you take your coffee, or a favorite restaurant in your area?
Oh, there are some, because it depends on the daily feeling. So I'm not committed to one thing, but I know different things that fit to different situations. So in Vienna, for example, I have some restaurants I like. in Zurich, of course, in Venice, in Milan, in Wiesbaden. So I'm turning around to the cities. Then, of course, when I'm somewhere else, I'm trying to get some rumors or doing something new. But definitely, I have not one place, but a place that fits to the evening or to the person I'm going to share the moments with.
Okay, but can you name one in Zurich then, because you're from Switzerland?
Yeah, of course. There are some restaurants who are very nice. I like them. In Zurich, we have a lake, and the lake is attracting pole even for so pop-up restaurants on very ancient so bath wooden path stations. So you have them constructed on the seaside, so a wooden floor. On the evening, they close the normal daily walk. So the people goes out, they clean everything, they get their tables on it, and you have very good cooks to do that. And there is the Bad Zollingen, then you have Restaurant Lo. So you have different kind of that because the ambient is very fine. You have the seaside, maybe the sun is going down, see a little boat coming by. So that is a relaxing moment where I go most. So I like that. So it's an open restaurant, which is pop-up, and so you have only in the summertime. And of course, there is even other restaurants in the city who are traditional, and the other one that renovates very often, but you have always high quality. It's a little bit expensive as everything in Switzerland, but that is the place where you can go down and have it fun. And there's even the Bites, which is in the third Kreis, so district, where they use only local products and local wines, so Swiss wines and everything local with heritage, and revisit it in a modern view, so modern taste. So they grab on old recipes and they get new things. So even that's a concept I like.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love things like that. So a bit traditional and also from the area. Yeah. But it was really so lovely and so interesting to talk to you. You've really made me think about so many things about wine and that I haven't thought about. That's so interesting.
Unfortunately, we are so deep in the question that we don't ask questions. So everything is set. So we have even some books, textbooks. We get the information out, and we don't ask questions because we take them for granted. What I did in our discussion, I go behind the curtain, I opened it and said, okay, behind is something, mind it. And it's not so easy and fine to describe it like a textbook because there are different layers, and depend where you go and what you do, the layer is looking to you, so you have to be conscious about that. But it could even be different in the same situation. So it depends where you're going to. And if we feel that, we can understand that in this very moment, persons are enjoying something, they're drinking, they're doing. So it's not all about us.
Yeah.
But it's the same time, different feeling, different emotions. And that's the only way I can approach as a winemaker to my profession. And for you to understand that, oh, there's something else I didn't consider, but it's very interesting, but it's difficult to explain. Yeah. So it's the feeling. And then we can explain the technical part, we can explain vinification, we can do a lot of things, but it's doing it simple while it's so interesting. I guess the wine world is so interesting. Why it's so unpredictable. Mm. You have a bottle, you have a cork, you uncork it, then it's the content, then it's the person behind, then you have the vintage, then you have the trader who stores it. So there's a lot of things behind, and if you maybe just a little bit understand that, then you understand that every time you uncork or unscrew a bottle, you have a special moment.
Yeah.
Because it's the moment that leads you to open the bottle with that person alone, but or when we don't drink a lot, that leads to that with a lot of story.
No, that is so true. I mean, it's really how you explain it now. It's definitely winemakers are artists, because it's the same as
We try to hide ourselves, not to be burned as witches or something else, but indeed there is some black energy behind it because we're in the cellar, so there's no light. But we're friendly, so we're friendly. We're trying to do that. But no, jokes aside. So normally winemakers, so really winemakers are conscious of that. They're feeling that. They are not trying to convince you. They are very bad salesmen. So winemakers don't sell so good. They need salesmen, because I said I don't want to sell that wine. So let it in the magazine. We wait some years. No, we have to. So okay, nice, but I shouldn't. I know that I shouldn't, and so I accept it. But normally winemakers have this passion, have this pain, have the consciousness to not be happy about what they're doing, but they're happy that they do it. So a conflict that brings the art to you.
Amazing. You've opened up a door now to winemaking that I haven't realized. So thank you very much for this. Thank you really for this lovely conversation. Well, have a lovely afternoon. I so hope that I can meet you in person one day. That would be so lovely. It's so interesting to talk to you. So, Sieghard, see you soon.
Have a good time.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.